Hello everyone, this is Crowfire Gaming. I'm here to explain my Dialla's Unleashed build. This build has surprised me in how good it was. When I was putting the PoE together, I thought I was doing something wrong because of how great everything looked, but I played it and it is indeed fantastic. It's accomplished pretty much all the content in the game, barring about half the Ubers. I don't have the skill for the Exarch's balls, and the degen ground on Cyrus storms are just too hard to see for me, but maybe someone else can do it if you solve some of the problems of the build. So I'm definitely open for input, but let me just explain how the build works, and then you can use that as a base to kind of explore other options and other variations of the build for whatever you want to do, because this is an extremely new build for this league, and it uses a lot of interesting moving parts. So yeah, hopefully it's useful for you. So let me explain. First I'm going to explain my tree. So I'm going Inquisitor. There's a few reasons for it, but primarily it's in order to use Pious Path. A Pious Path is an extremely important keystone for us because it super increases the regeneration. I'm using Inevitable Judgment so that I can use different kinds of damage types and just ignore Pen and not have to worry about it. And then I'm using a Forbidden Flame and Flesh Jewel to actually get Instruments of Zeal for Fanaticism. Fanaticism is widely known as being super clunky and not worth using, but there's a couple aspects of this build that make it significantly easier to use and reliable. And if you can accomplish that, it's fantastic. 75% more cast speed, which is 75% more damage, and it feels more fluid. 75% reduced cost, which is all cost, including life cost of skills, and 75% increased area of effect. So this is enormous. It's a fantastic node. It's just keeping up the buff is generally tricky because you need to attack once every 4 seconds. Good. Other than the Ascendancy, I'm running Divine Shield for ES regen based on physical damage prevented. Since I'm block, I'm investing in quite a bit of block. The physical damage prevented counts based on that block. I'm getting Aura effect, more block here. I'm getting a Cold Mastery to convert 40% of my physical damage to cold. And then you want to make sure you get Doriani's Lesson for elemental damage leached as life. It's the only source of life leech that I have. And then for my exact build, I run one of my auras has to have some increased mana reservation efficiency on a cluster jewel. This isn't necessary for other variations. That's just one of the skills I want to use. I'm running a banner that you don't have to, and if you want to run that, you need to use this notable. I think that's the only interesting thing on the tree. I'm running a brutal restraint just for some decks. And it's got some good nodes, including gain Onslaught on Kill, which is the most important one. But otherwise, Alchemist Genius is fine. Increased Aura effect is fantastic. Evasion rate doesn't do anything. Yeah, so that's it. It's basically a 3-prop jewel, but it's very good and it gives us decks. I'm also low life, so I get Pain Attunement. Okay, so that's the tree for context. So let me explain the interactions of this build. So this is Dialla's Unleashed build. It's based on scaling Dialla's to its maximum potential. Basically, what Dialla's allows you to do, which is new this league, is it lets you add a 30% quality to any gem inside of the chess piece. As long as it's in a green socket, and as long as the gem is in a red socket, then it adds +2 to levels. So what I do is I actually have all green sockets except one red socket, and in that red socket I put an Awaken Enhance. And then if you get a +1 level of Corruption on your chest, you can get an additional +3 levels to your Awaken Enhance. So +8 is the maximum here, which is adds a whopping 56% quality of gems, and then everything else gets 86 because it's connected to the Enhance and is in a green socket in Dialla's. On top of that, you run Ashes of the Stars for 30% quality, and then it's just another base 20 for a total of 136% quality. Now, what can we do with 136% quality? Well, there's a lot of support. There's a lot of skill gems that can utilize this, and I'm using all utility gems in my chest, and therefore I'm using my helmet for a main link setup, and I'll go over the helmet later. But primarily, what I wanted to use is alternate qualities, and what has really good alternate quality? Well, Berserk, right? Divergent Berserk has the 34% more spell damage, but because it was nerfed so hard a few leagues ago, it's been really hard to make use of well for a spellcaster. But now with the new gloves, Count Spirit, converting your life regeneration into rage regeneration, we can actually sustain Berserk really easily. And it lasts 15 to 20 seconds, and then it's down for 5. So it's up 75% of the time and is really good. And it gives attack speed, which is fantastic for making it easier to attack once every second to sustain the fanaticism buff. So 34% more spell damage, 20% less damage taken, which is obviously like Fortify. So it's Fortify up 75% of the time. And then the movement speed, attack speed is great for just zipping around the map. Okay, next is Phantasmal Smite. So along the same lines, Phantasmal Smite also buffs attack speed. The alternate quality gives up to 5% increased attack and cast speed with 20%. For me, it's 34% increased attack and cast speed. But this actually scales with aura effect. So just based on my tree, I get 56% increased attack and cast speed. And that's really good. 56% attack and cast speed is better than the Veiled Glove modifier, which is increased attack and cast speed while you focus. So this is really good. And it also gives you the flat added lightning damage, which because I'm an Inquisitor and ignore elemental resistances, then I can scale the lightning damage just as easily as I can cold damage. So Phantasmal Smite is something like a 40% more multiplier. I really underestimated how much of a damage bonus it is, but it's crazy having this buff up. It only lasts 4 seconds base, but there's a Aura Mastery that makes it last 50% longer, so 6 seconds total. So you just need to hit with it once every 6 seconds, and you're going to be wanting to attack once every second-ish anyway in order to keep up your fanaticism, so it's not that bad. You're attacking anyway. The only problem is that I have almost no accuracy. I have about a 48% chance to hit. So you'll want to use your smite when there's 2 or more mobs close to each other, and you have a pretty good chance of sustaining it. And even on single target, if you, it takes a couple of tries to get the buff, you want to attack once a second anyway, and the buff lasts 6 seconds, and you attack really fast. You get 56% attack speed here. You get 14% attack speed from Blood Rage, another 12% from Frenzy Charges, and you get 20% more. Like, the attack speed is actually really fast. It feels quite smooth. It's definitely not hard to keep this buff up, and again, it's like a 40% more multiplier. Good, so Phantasmal Smite is the next one. So next is Anomalous Dread Banner. This is purely defensive. Anomalous Dread Banner has interesting alternate quality that I haven't seen anyone use, and that's probably because it has such a low value. It's just nearby enemies deal less damage, which is a very potent effect. But if you link it with the Awaken Enhance and you get it up to the High of Quality, I get up to 13% less damage dealt by nearby enemies. And this actually scales with Aura Effect. So for me, it's actually 20% less damage, which is basically the same as having Fortify. So for reserving 12% of your mana, because Enhance has a mana multiplier, you get basically permanent Fortify. Now, it doesn't work on ground effects, unfortunately, which is basically all you're fighting if you're trying to do Ubers, for example. But just general, in almost all circumstances, well, it is Fortify, because Fortify also doesn't work on, ground degens. So it's really good. For a very small amount of mana. Next is Phantasmal Purifying Flame. Purifying Flame grants increased effective consecrated ground for the alternate quality, and with 136%, that is 136% increased effective consecrated ground. Now this gives you like 8 to 9% life regen base, and it also scales other effects of consecrated ground, such as from Bottled Faith, which is increased damage taken on consecrated ground. It scales based on the Watcher's Eye. That's consecrated ground created while affected by Zealotry also causes 9% increased damage taken, as well as Sanctuary, which is 15% increased damage taken. So that's 35% increased damage taken, and including Pious Path, I have 186% increased effective consecrated ground. So 2.86 times 35 is 99.75. So it's 100% increased damage taken. So it just doubles the amount of damage. Now that's not all. That's not all what Phantasmal Purifying Flame does, because the base is half of that. But Phantasmal Purifying Flame is going to grant you 8 to 9% life regen, and make you immune to curses, and then grant enemies about 50% increased damage taken. So it's very, very good. Last is Petrified Blood. So Petrified Blood basically is well, it's a very complicated skill that's been hashed over, but I'll just say what it does for me. So I'm using the regular quality, which just decreases the value of the degen you take after taking the initial hit. So my quality is 34% less, 34% of life loss is prevented. So with 43%, that's 43% of the 40% of damage prevented is lost. So that's, I did the math already, it's 17%. So you're basically taking only 17% of the 40% that you prevent, which means if you have probably around, it's a little tricky because of the hit calculations, but if you have around 15% damage recoup, which you can get on a ring, then that means that Petrified Blood is not going to actually degen you, unless there's some life recovery map mods or something from Maven. But basically this means 40% less damage taken. Now, there's another version, Anomalous Petrified Blood, which is insane if you can find a way to make it work. Basically, you would make it so that you prevent 76% of damage. So you just take 76% less damage, but then over 4 seconds, you lose 400% of that hit. So you would need to regen over 100% of your life per second in order to make that work. You would take 76% less damage, which is a 4 times EHP multiplier, but somehow you need to regen an absolutely insane amount of life, and I'm just not sure how to get that high enough. For recoup, that means 400% recoup, just to put this in perspective. But yeah, anyway, so I use Petrified Blood. It's just 40% less damage taken because we can so reliably get the value low enough. Originally, I had Divergent Righteous Fire in the chest as well, so that it was granting 136% increased spell damage instead of just 50. But I swapped it out for Dread Banner when I figured I could make my mana work for Anomalous Dread Banner. Yeah, so that's all of the main skills I'm using. I am using Anomalous Blood Rage. Anomalous Blood Rage has 2% chance to gain a Frenzy Charge when you hit a unique enemy, but with Ashes at 30%, you get up to 5%, which is very reliable if you're using something like Awakened Spell Cascade on Reap, because you're going to hit 2 or 3 times, and if you have your Fanaticism up, you're just going to get the buff instantly because your cast speed is so fast. Otherwise, I'm running Assassin's Mark. In my helmet, I have to use a 6-link helmet because I'm using a 6-link here. This one is quite good. It's actually very easy to craft because you can just take a Blizzard Crown, slam a Crusader, or slam a Conquer Exalt on it, and then use Harvest to swap the influence until you get Shaper. Then just spam it with Essence of Hysteria or Horror for either 30% more damage on low life or 30% more elemental damage. And then you do that until you get it with a high level Hypothermia. Then you lock your suffixes, reroll crit if you have an open suffix, and that will guarantee the spells have additional crit chance mod. Then you just lock again and Iceling or Veiled Chaos for +2 socketed AoE gems. I actually landed increased area of effect, which I really like, so I'm just taking the hit and only having +1 level of AoE gems instead of +2. But it's quite good. Also, the Blizzard Crown is fantastic because with Inevitable Judgment, it's just the flat cold damage because the cold resistance doesn't matter. So using the Blizzard Crown base is really nice. Other than that, I'm using a shield that just gives some damage, some block, some life on block implicit. This is great. I think that maybe there's a better version of the build that can tank all the Ubers or something if you swap to an Aegis Aurora. But I really like having life on block because on the occasion that my life gets damaged and recoup isn't dealing with it and my life leech isn't dealing with it, then the life on block just really helps save my life pool because it's very low and I have no rate to regen. Otherwise, boots just give me ailment immunity and good resistances. I already talked about Count Spirit. You can get +1 level of Socketed Gems Corruption here. That will increase the level of your Enlighten, which lets you run more auras. And for my aura setup, I'm running Hatred. I'm running Anomalous Hatred, which actually increases the chill and freeze duration. So I freeze, like the mini bosses in Shaper, I freeze them very reliably. Determination, Purity of Fire. Purity of Fire I'm running because I had the mana for it. I wanted to run a defensive aura. And it helps mitigate the degen from Righteous Fire, which is really good. On my main setup, I'm running Reap, Awakened Spell Cascade, you should use Awaken Spell Echo. It's very expensive, so I'm just using Anomalous Spell Echo, and increase critical damage support. Shield Charge is my main movement skill in my Scepter. And then I'm running Divergent Tempest Shield, which gets up to 5% chance to block spells from alternate quality, which is actually really good. 5% is really high, and Vitality. With Anomalous Arrogance. Anomalous Arrogance lets you increase the life reservation efficiency. You give up some aura effect, but it's really hard to get life reservation efficiency. But maybe if you have a higher roll on your Ashes of the Stars, you can make it work. Belt is just a lot of chaos res. Yeah, and then whatever jewel that gives you life, cast speed, etc. Flasks, I'm using Arumi's just because it caps my block. Quicksilver because I'm using Shield Charge. Taste of Hate because it's amazing, etc. Okay, so I think that's the build. Now for the actual gameplay, this build uses too many buttons. It's an impractical build. It will wear out your wrists. It drains you mentally, but oh lord, is it fast and fun. I've never used so many buttons in my life. I only have 2 buttons when I'm hitting control that are not in use, that I can use to activate my auras. It's very annoying, but you have your Divine Blessing Zealotry set up, which you can only use, activate it when you have Fanaticism, because Fanaticism gives you a 75% reduced cost of skills, so you activate that. It lasts a long time. Smite, you're going to use that once every 6 seconds. Berserk, you use about once every 30 seconds. Purifying Flame, the Consecrated Ground on Purifying Flame lasts 4 seconds, and then because of Pious Path, the effects linger for 4 seconds, so you need to cast your Purifying Flame about once every 8 seconds for optimal uptime. I have my Molten Shell on left click because I have nowhere else to fit it in, and it's very good. Righteous Fire is on all the time, and Blood Rage is here. And then finally I have an Assassin's Mark. Thank God they last forever, because I do not want to have to recast those skills. So, oh yeah, you just throw this on once and then you never do it again. So that's all the buttons. Okay, just to show you the gameplay loop, you're going to be shield charging and smite. The nice thing about smite is that it actually has a very long range. You can see I can smite from all the way back here. So it's very easy to maintain the buff, actually. You just need to hit your attack in place hotkey, and then you can smite, and that gives you the buff up here. So let me just show you what the gameplay loop is like. So you're going to shield charge, smite, activate Berserk, and then cast. So we're going to do it here, and then every so often you're going to want to smite to keep up the buff. And you can see here, I actually go sometimes a little too fast to even see all the mobs. But yeah, so that's how it works. You just smite, cast, shield charge, smite, cast, shield charge. Works very well. It's very quick. If you have an open layout like Strand, it's good. Closed layouts are really annoying. I ran a Minotaur map earlier, and the actual mapping is annoying because there's so many turns, and shield charge isn't great with that. You can swap to using Leap Slam. Leap Slam also goes pretty fast when you're in full zoom mode, but yeah, so there's a few options. If you choose not to use Smite and use a dagger, you can use Railing Blades, which is super fast, but I think Shield Charge is actually optimal because Berserk scales attack speed and movement speed. It's just that for some map layouts, it's less than ideal. Good, so that's the build. Hope you enjoy it.